Hi guys, welcome back to grade 12 Life Science. Now, so far this term we've just been looking at genetics, and we finished off with our last lesson looking at mtDNA, mitochondrial DNA and paternity testing. Now we're moving on to our next topic. We're going to be taking a closer look at coordinating systems in the body. In other words, we're going to be looking first at the nervous system and then later on moving on to have a look at the endocrine system. Now, those are new terms. You might be wondering what exactly they are. So first of all, what is the coordinating system? Well, these are the systems in our body that allow communication between receptors and effectors in the body and allow us to respond to changes in the environment, both internal and external. Okay, you still might be saying, what does that mean? Well, a coordinating system is a system that picks up signals from our environment. It sends those signals to our brain where we process the information, and then that information gets sent to the muscles in our bodies that allow us to react to it in some way. Okay, now there are two systems that make up the coordinating system. This is the nervous system, which is made up of all the different nerves, neurons, the brain, the spinal cord in our body. And then we have the endocrine system, which is made up of all the different glands and hormones in our body. We're going to be starting off by taking a closer look at the nervous system, and then later on we'll go on to look at the endocrine system. Okay, so with that being said, let's move on to the next slide and start talking about the nervous system. Okay, so the nervous system is made up of our brain, the spinal cord, and the various nerves in our body. And it also includes our sensory organs, such as our eyes, our nose, our ears, our sense of taste, our sense of touch, and our sense of temperature. So our nervous system provides a continuous flow of information between the environments around us and inside of us, the brain, and the various parts of the body. And this allows for the proper function of our body. So, in other words, the nervous system takes information from outside our bodies. Let's say, for an example, let's say that I'm walking along one day and I see a snake on the floor. My eyes pick up or see the snake, and they send that information to the spinal cord and brain, which then process this information and make a decision on what to do. Once that decision has been made, it then sends a message to the muscles in my legs that I need to turn around and run away. So it's sending information from our environment in a loop through our brain to our effector organs. Quickly, what do we mean by effector and effector organs? We're going to go through that very soon. Effector organs, effector organs are those things that pick up the changes in the environment, and effector organs are those which are affected, that are told to do something by the brain. Okay, now there are two parts to the nervous system. We can separate the nervous system into two different parts. And these parts are the central nervous system, made up of the brain and spinal cord, and then our peripheral nervous system, which is all the neurons in our bodies that aren't in the spine or the brain. Let's go on to the next slide. One important term we need to understand in order to understand our nervous system, and in fact, not just a nervous system, but our entire coordinating system, is the term stimuli. Now, stimuli or stimulus is any physical or chemical change in the environment that brings about some kind of response. Okay, so a stimulus can include sights, sounds, temperatures, anything that causes a response in your body. It doesn't have to be on the outside either. It can be environmental conditions inside your body that change, that bring about a response. For example, when we talk about thermoregulation and stuff, later on when we look at the endocrine system, when there's a change in temperature of your body, the temperature inside your body, there's a response that causes the temperature to return to normal. Now, this function of the nervous system, we can break that into three parts as well. First of all, we have the sensory function. In other words, the sensory function is our nervous system picks up changes in the environment. It senses change in the environment. And in that regard, we talk about our sensory organs, our eyes, our nose, our tongue, our ears, our fingertips, our skin. Okay, those are sensory organs. They sense changes in the environment, and then neurons carry the information about that change to the brain and spinal cord. So that's the sensory function. The integrating function then is when the information is processed in the spinal cord and brain, and decisions are made about an appropriate response. That is the integrating or integration function of the nervous system. And finally, we have the motor function. The motor function then is taking the information from the brain about what action should be taken and talking to the various muscles and organs in the body to bring about that response. Okay, so let's say if we're talking about our snake example on the ground, me seeing the snake and that information being taken to the brain would be the sensory function. The decision that my brain makes that I need to turn around and run away from the snake is the integration function. And then the motor function is my brain sending the information to the muscles in my leg to move and run. Okay, so those are the three main functions of the nervous system. Let's carry on to the next slide. Okay, so let's go a little bit closer into looking at the central nervous system now. We are going to look at each one of the organs of the central nervous system, namely the brain and the spine, in later lessons, but let's just have a broad look at the central nervous system first. So the central nervous system, you'll often see it referred to in textbooks and such as the CNS, and it consists of the brain and the spinal cord. Now, our central nervous system, both the brain and the spinal cord, are surrounded by a system of protective membranes called the meninges. And it consists of three layers. The meninge consists of three layers. On the outermost layer, we have the dura mater. Beneath that, we have the arachnoid. And the final layer is the pia mater. So surrounding the spinal cord and the brain, we have this system of membranes called the meninges. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so the meninges help to protect the brain, and they also contain and encapsulate the cerebrospinal fluid. Now, the cerebrospinal fluid is a fluid found between the arachnoid and pia mater, and what it does is it acts as a shock absorber. It protects the central nervous system against shock and damage. So if you bump your head or something, you don't just smack your brain against your skull. There is a little bit of cushioning from the cerebrospinal fluid. Now, the central nervous system is also surrounded by bony cases. So we have the meninges, we have the cerebrospinal fluid between the arachnoid and pia mater, and then surrounding all of this, we have a bony case. The bony case which surrounds the brain is called the skull. And surrounding our spinal cord, we have the vertebrae. Let's carry on to the next slide. Okay, so we know that our spine has the spinal cord, and that's surrounded by the vertebrae. Now, next to me here, you can see that our spine isn't just one straight column. It has an almost S-shaped curve to it. And we can also see that the vertebrae isn't just one long tube. We have a number of vertebrae, and between each vertebra, we have small discs of cartilage. So both the shape and these cartilage discs act to give even more protection to the spinal cord. It protects it against shock and jarring. Okay, so guys, that is the central nervous system. Let's go on to the next slide and we'll talk a bit about the peripheral nervous system. Okay, so the peripheral nervous system then, this is made up of all the nerves or neurons in the body that aren't the brain or the spinal cord. So it's all the nerves and neurons going from the spinal cord into my arms and legs and all the different parts of my body. Okay, it's made up of the nerves or neurons. And remember, neurons is just another name for a nerve cell. It's made up of all the nerves and neurons that carry information from the sensory organs to the central nervous system, and from the central nervous system to the motor organs, to the effector organs. Okay, so if we break up the functions of the peripheral nervous system and the central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system serves to the functions of the sensory function. So the peripheral nervous system will pick up pick up signals from the environment and carry them to the central nervous system. So the sensory function, we say afferent neurons carry impulses from our sensory organs to the central nervous system. Okay.
We need to learn to live with the COVID virus, you know, the new normal, at least for the next few months. And we have just what you need to make sure you never miss a single school lesson. And it's absolutely free, mahala! High quality, powerful, animated lessons for all your subjects. So don't spend a cent until you have tried iWhiz. It's everything you need. All video lessons, textbooks, workbooks, exam prep. We want you to ace 2021.